Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Ham Nation is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by ICOM. For more information, visit ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation. And by DX Engineering. DX Engineering offers practically everything you need to outfit your shack, plus the fastest shipping in the industry. In-stock items ship the same day, Monday through Friday until 10 p.m. Eastern. For more information, visit dxengineering.com/HamNation.
This is Ham Nation, episode number 150, June 4th, 2014. 6 meters is alive. Hello, everybody. It's Ham Nation time, and this is Bob Heil, K9EID. And guess what tonight is? It's our 150th show, and we got a really good show tonight. Gordo, how are you doing? You've held out for 150. How are you?
It is amazing. We have, and I'm just fine. All excited about this past weekend's HamFest. And this week, you know, Bob, everybody's up in the Pacific Northwest heading down to Seaside, Oregon for CPAC, the great ham show this weekend. And also this weekend, for those of you not going to Seaside, work a battleship on the air. It's the 70th anniversary of D-Day this weekend, and Museum Ships Weekend is the call to order. Oklahoma USS Batfish on the air, WW2 sub. That makes sense. And the Oklahoma WW2 OK is on the air. Thanks, Mitch, KE5HWW. And then next weekend, not this one, but weekend after next, I'll be down in Plano for the Plano Ham Fest, Plano, Texas. Also, Santa Maria has a Ham Fest. June 21, drag out the kids. It's Kids Day on the air. Thanks to KC3BHQ that says Homer, Alaska, all the way down to Fort Washington, Maryland, and everywhere in between will have kids on the air on that Saturday, June 21. And then the weekend after that is Field Day, and we've got some special shows coming up in the near future. So next week, I won't be here. I'll be in Plano, Texas. Bob, back to you.
All right. It's always nice to hear from everybody, and keep all that coming to Gordo or any of us about what's going on in your club and activities we need to know so we can tell everybody. Before I get down to Don and George talking about activities, I'd let everybody know that I'm going to be in Nashville Monday and Tuesday. And go to our Facebook page. Just go to heilsound.com and check in on the Facebook page on the pro side. And you'll see all of the information there on how you can RSVP that. You might have a picture of that, Brian, also. But we're teaching a class there at Martina and John McBride's studio at Blackbird. I'm very happy to do that. They've got an academy. The academy is their school to teach recording engineers. So I'm very excited to be there. And you around Nashville, why, come and see us 10 o'clock Monday. And I don't guess you're going to be there, Don. You're busy on the air. It's Don Wilbanks. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm busy working, feeding the Star Maker machinery in New Orleans. Hey, good to be here. And wow, 150 episodes. That's pretty cool. Speaking of nets and D-Day stuff, Gordo was talking about, we've got some information in the Newsline video piece about some AM nets for D-Day that are coming from across the pond. So you want to check into that for D-Day. Back to you, Bob.
Okay, cool. And then look who is out at ICOM. Did you take a big suitcase? It was empty, George. It's George. Greetings.
Greetings, Bob. No, I'm going to rent a UPS truck, and we'll just bring everything back in that. Now, I'm having a great time here with Ray and the crew. Say hello, Ray.
Good evening, everybody.
He's been showing me a good time here. It's a great place to see. If you're in the Kirkland, Washington area, anywhere near Seattle, it's worth the drive over. If you come in, they'll hang one of these around your neck and give you the grand tour, and they've got a great historical area over here. I'm getting a lot of video here, so we'll have some stuff in the future to look at.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to seeing all of that, and you'll be back later with some things from the ICOM plan. I'm really excited about you being out there and looking forward to all of the video that we're going to get from that. That'll be good. To start things off, I want to play a video that I've put together. 6 meters has been absolutely wild the last couple of weeks. It's been exceptional. And we're being a 6 meter nut, why I've been in second heaven. So let's roll that video, Brian, and see what's going on 50 megacycles.
Thank you. Also, you are 5959 and 4246 from Santiago de Chile, 73.
If you missed 6 meters this week, you really missed it. It's been wide open.
Yes, 73. We'll certainly look for you again. All the best. QRZ, Victor Echo 4, Echo Alpha Romeo.
CQ 6 meters, Victor Alpha 5, Lima Foxtrot, and Victor Alpha 5, Lima Foxtrot, calling CQ 6 meters.
There's always lots of CW on the band, a lot of beacons, and you want to pay attention to those beacons. And yes, I log it all, and I log it by hand, just like I did in the 1950s and 60s.
But K9 EIB, Kilo Victor 6 Oscar. Yeah, I'm actually lots of nice equipment here, so I can definitely recommend the Lost Creek Cabin is the...
And you guys know how much I love AM, so I tune up to 50.4, and oh boy.
KD0ZS. Kilo Delta 0, Zebra Stripes. And Cheyenne, Wyoming, and you two guys are my first 2 6 meter contacts with this Heathkit Seneca and my SP600.
Now you know he has to feel really good. That was his first contact. The Heathkit Seneca, I had one in 1960. I built it from a kit. What a great thing that was. And AM is really fun. And of course, the Gonset communicator that came from a 1950s day still works great. You guys are going to have to get on, and there's no reason you can't. Just about every radio today has 6 meters in it. And we even find some handy talkies that have 6 meters. So there's no excuse. But you have to get an antenna. No, it doesn't have to be of this nature, although this is a very nice antenna. This is an M-squared 5-element. You can see it in the middle of the array. It works great. It's up about 70 feet, and yes, it does work great. And it's a nice place to start if you'd like to do that. However, all you need is a couple of pieces of wire. You remember the formula, 486 divided by the frequency of megacycles, and there are a couple of wires, and away you go. Or build your own little Yagi. It's really fun. You'll get a lot of enjoyment out of building your own antennas, and on 6 meters, it's really, really simple. And like I always say, you could put your dummy load on top of your tower, and yeah, you're going to have perfect SWR, but it is not going to work. And so pay attention. There's a lot of this in my new handbook about how to build some of these simple antennas and enjoy this great thing that we call amateur radio, and especially 6 meters, the magic band. These beacons are very important, and what they are, they're all over the globe, and you listen and you'll hear these coming in long before some of the other the phone transmissions, and you'll be able to work some of that. There's Don's 6 meter H50, and you'll be surprised what you can work with that, right, Don? Just with the little whip. It's amazing. But listen for the beacons. Keep your receivers down below 50.1, and you'll hear all these signals, and it'll tell you where they're coming from. But I just, it really bugs me when people try to use their 75-meter and 40-meter antenna. I know, it tunes up fine, but it doesn't radiate properly, and it's so easy to build a 6-meter dipole. So easy. And you guys can do it. You guys and gals, we've been through it before. Go back and look, and maybe we ought to come and do some more of that. So what do you think, George? You think we better build some antennas and all that? And before you come in, let's have a word from ICOM. They, of course, have got a great new thing happening. So let's hear from ICOM tonight, and then we'll head out and see what's going on with George at the contest.
ICOM America and ICOM Canada are teaming up to offer ham radio operators some incredible savings. You can get a great deal on a D-Star repeater direct from ICOM and help expand D-Star across North America. For a limited time, ICOM is offering a Buy Direct D-Star promotion for U.S. and Canadian residents. Purchase a D-Star repeater through the D-Star Infrastructure Program. The growth of D-Star over the past 4 years has been incredible, with the release of the ID51A and the IC7100. More people are getting on the air with this incredible mode. In response to the request to make the infrastructure more affordable, ICOM America and ICOM Canada are teaming up to expand the number of repeaters. Hurry! This Buy Direct promotion is good for a limited time. Download the mail order form, fill it out, and send it in by mail, fax, or email today. Find out what all the D-Star fun is about. Visit ICOMAmerica.com/amateur for more information on ICOM's Buy Direct program. And you can tune in and enter to win after each episode of Ham Nation. Go to ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation and throw your name in the hat for some great swag prizes from the ICOMSwagStore.com. And I just looked at some of them out here. There are some nice things. I'm going to get some pictures of that. And is that a swag store item you've got right there, Ray?
No, sir. This one's company issue.
Company issue. But there are some really nice shirts out there, too. But so go to ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation and enter to win. And you could be the lucky winner of a weekly prize, of course, from the swag store, but also you'll automatically be entered to win the monthly prize. And the May contest winner is Kent Engelbert, K4HKE, and he won an ID51A. It's a dual band, dual watch handheld with D-Star, GPS, and a lot more. So congratulations, Kent. And for June, we've got another radio we're giving away here. It's the ID880H Mobile with 50 watts of power on both VHF and UHF. It's got D-Star, weather alert, and a lot more. And that's the D-Star rig I use myself. So tune in where, Ray?
Oh, man, you just caught me. ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation.
Yep. After each episode. And someone here, I don't think Ray pulls a name out of the hat, but someone here could just draw your name and you could be the next lucky winner. Well, right now, I guess we need to go back to Gordo and see what's going on with his shots.
Well, no shorts yet. We were in Nevada, and if we could go ahead and roll the still shots, we'll give you our report for this past weekend. You know, everyone should do a ham radio convention because there's so much fun, not only doing the convention, but heading up to it. And as you head up to it, make sure that you've got your 2-meter and 440 radio on for the locals to tell you where to stop along the way. And that's just what we did. And as we headed up from Southern California to the Sierra Nevada Amateur Radio Society's first in Virginia City, their first state Nevada convention under Sierra Nevada Amateur Radio Society for this year, we saw the great mountains along the way up, the great Sierra Nevadas. And Ham said, be sure and turn at Keogh Springs, because he knew I'm into surfing. So we did. We dipped our thermometer at Keogh Hot Springs, and look at that, 114 degrees. Yahoo! A little warmer than the Pacific Ocean on our way to the convention. So I worked a little bit of DX Maritime Mobile. Well, my butt was on a rock. You can see the comm band in the background. But we had a great time in taking part in the convention on the way up. When we pulled in, we saw that it had a focus on emergency communications. And the very first day, Friday, they had voice over internet protocol, big seminar for half a day there, as well as state emergency managers and ARES leadership all attending up at Virginia City. And they had an area out front for all of the vehicles. That's Mike Katz, N7MSK. He is the president of the Sierra Nevada Amateur Radio Society, and that is his vehicle. And over on the side is Gary Grant, K7VY, who is the ARRL section manager for Nevada. And you can see all of the emergency communication type vehicles, even the four-wheel drive. Hey, this is great. They can actually drive this legally in town. Could not get away with that in the local area down here in Southern California. Here you see a well-outfitted emergency comm vehicle with all the very latest and greatest, and they were ready for almost any type of response. Some neat vehicles that were converted ambulances, other vehicles for emergency comms. You never know what it is. And there's Tracy and Jody. They came all the way up from San Bernardino with their emergency communications service representing hams down south. And they were a big inspiration for all of us to stay tuned in for emergency comms. And video links showing off a portable ATV system as one of their emergency comm systems. And wow, look at this. I won't tell you how little they spent for this used television rebroadcast truck. Pennies on the dollar, and it came well outfitted, and soon you're going to see that it's going to be decked out with all the very latest in emergency comms. Great registration process. Soon as you walk down this very nice hotel's staircase, you are met by a very friendly ARRL personnel, as well as the folks taking charge and making sure that everybody got their name badge and was well registered. And our opening speak was Michael Corey, KI1U, ARRL Emergency Manager. And he explained on several days about how the league is tightening of how terms are used at the national level to promote public service and as an umbrella term to describe the three components of ham radio comms for public service. Community events, which, wow, you know, community events, we do plenty of those. That's 80% of our time. Disasters, about 19% of our comms. And emergency comms way down there at just 1%. And they said they needed a better umbrella term, such as public service, to describe our work with the National Weather Service, Skywarn, APCO, American Red Cross, Mars, Saturn, FEMA MOUs, and that the league is going to have a major overhaul next year of their Emergency Comm 001 course. Lower cost, good news, Michael. More recognition among those agencies throughout the country, and will recertify every 2 years under this new program. And instead of us serving a served agency, he suggested we look at serving our community as a served community. And everybody is wanting to get involved with this. Contesters, which Michael says, and he's a great one himself, are great operators who get it the first time. And there was mention of all of the equipment that the ARRL has from leading manufacturers. They didn't mention the manufacturers, but this deployable gear that goes out when their 5-member response team at the league is ready to mobilize the gear. So Michael did a great job over the 3 days of explaining all that's happening at the national level. Yes, only 1% of the time we're going to come across an emergency like this and handle communications. And a question came up from the crowd, and that was, well, what about us down in the field, the emergency communicator? And he says he doesn't hear much from the section emergency communicator. So if you've got a section EC, make sure that he's getting word about what you and I are doing down here in the field, and maybe handling an emergency like that. Well, that first day on Friday, the wind was just howling, but you can't tell it up here in Virginia City in that they took the table covers off so they didn't act like a sailboat. You can see everybody having a great time at the barbecue that was going on late in the afternoon. Some of those we can't say that. Some of those emergency public service vehicles in the background that the volunteers had brought up. That Saturday morning, every HamFest has to have a swap meet, and there we are, bright and early in the morning, bright sunshine up in Virginia City, flying the ARRL emergency comm flag and looking for the latest and greatest of stuff at the swap meet. And they had an area set aside for vendors, and we had plenty of vendors with all the very latest gear. And here is the great Elecraft that was taking place. And Elecraft had a lot of live equipment, including their new PX3 Spectrum scope that goes with many of their transceivers, but it's smaller, so you can actually take it with you when you next go out on a emergency exercise. And, of course, the Elecraft ladies, always smiling and having a great time, because in between the many, many seminars that were going on inside, the Sierra Nevada Amateur Radio Society had lots of room for those that wanted to come in and take a look at some of the new gear. Look at this. This is the Elecraft remote control. And Tracy and Jody have one, and they're going to get that rolling as well on the air shortly. You've heard about Ventenna. Won't even know it's a antenna, but there it is, the Ventenna folks showing off what it takes to get on the air covertly so no one sees anything. That was our testing of the Ventenna, the HF one outside, where you screw on different components, and it was a great responder to CQ signals and picking them up. Some very neat, well-engineered racks to hold some of that great ICOM equipment that George is going to try and sneak out of the factory tonight. And let's see, there is elk antennas. While they didn't bring their new lithium iron battery systems, they did bring plenty of their dual band antennas, and were there, and there was a lot of elk antennas going out the door. And oh gosh, Mick comes all the way up from Comet, and what a strong supporter of HamFest. And I think many of the HamFest folks really enjoyed talking with the main man. It was a 10-hour drive up with stops and a total of 1,000 miles round trip. But he supports HamFest, and these manufacturers really deserve credit for the long drives that they take. One of your smaller rotators, Bob, for your antenna system. It worked great on 6 meters. And, of course, everybody likes their badges, and Gordon with the badge company had plenty of them, and they did badges right there on scene, including dog tags and cat tags and you name it. But that's always fun at a ham radio convention. Outside, Dr. Vern, as you know, has sort of redone how his company sells the antenna products. There's a 3-element beam, but look what turns the beam. A pal of Dr. Vern's has a little 12-volt system that is more than capable of rotating that beam, and it was all live in action, and that's what we like to see at a HamFest, not just show and tell, but real live show and tell at your local ham radio convention. Now, we got to get more kids into our hobby. And we had Sam, a 10-year-old KG7 HBY. He was fascinated with so many different areas of the convention, but we were all fascinated with what we saw here, and that is NB6C's quintcopter. And I know there's a lot of FAA rules that are getting circulated around about what's legal and what's not. But ours was legal. We were doing it as a hobby. He's got all the gizmo gear built into this, probably about $3,000 for this guy. And Rob lifted it off, and up it went. He did it safely, making sure it wasn't flying over any people down below. And it was taking pictures of us the whole time. And who knows, soon you may see those on the internet. But here's a future for ham radio, and that is these multi-propeller copters, and ham radio and ATV, all of them rolled into one. Well, look, there's the main man, and he is showing ham radio testing as well as wine tasting. Gary Grant, that goes very well together. They did testing that day, all day Saturday, as part of a ham class. And that is Mr. Book, who is the main ham class instructor. And David Book, KD7YIM, had about 38 students, and about 36 of them passed the test that did pre-study ahead of time, many using our own Gordo materials. So thanks, David, for that one-day class to round out their study, and to the VEs who were very involved in getting those students tested. And Bob, those in the Bay Area know that Bob says it like it is. And here he's talking about the problems of jammers, the OO program, and the FCC recently reluctance to go after jammers and horrendous noise sources. And he really got fired up. So those of you in the Bay Area, you'll be proud of Bob and his statement that we need to let our congressman know that the FCC is not working to protect the amateur radio service against intruders and the jammers and so on. He got all fired up, and you know, you'd only see that at a ham radio convention. So go to a convention and see what happens. On the last day of the convention, Sunday, we had a tour of the Comstock Memorial Station, W7 Romeo November, and wow, you just look at the photos, and look up the one of the about 8 or 9 rotating towers. What a station. And what a station it was. Everything was on the air, ready for us. Look at all the many awards they've won. And a lot of this station is operated remote control by hams that are part of the system. Wow, look at the awards. A lot of Elecraft gear, along with other manufacturer gear, and everything is computerized, and it was absolutely an enormous system to see how everything stays on the air. There's Michael, and Michael is an avid contester, and Michael with the league did a fabulous job. He wanted to work 500 stations this month, I guess, in June. And boy, he's going to work a bunch right here. And that's Tom that you see smiling in the background. And Tom was there to say congratulations, because he was racking them up as fast as he could work them on CW. There he's working as logging, but he was really a whiz at working stations. And the W100AW stations all over the country, he wanted to express his thanks for making the ham radio service so exciting. And Michael also raised the issue we need to occupy our higher bands. From 900 megahertz on higher, if we don't use them, we will lose them. So we certainly agree that working the higher bands is necessary. So now we're going to shift to the day before Saturday night, and this is what ham radio is all about. That on the fiddle machine, or excuse me, it's not a ukulele. What the heck we call that, Bob? That's a, well, anyway, here's what it sounded like. Mandolin, there we go. That mandolin player is Dan Baker, KM6CQ, part of the banquet's Wild Horse Drive Bluegrass Band. But they switched some members, and it was interesting to see how they would communicate just by looking at each other as to who's going to take one part or the other part. And I was really pleased to see that. And this was at the Opera House, the Piper Opera House in Virginia City. Absolutely a gorgeous location. They were just getting warmed up. We packed the place. In fact, they completely sold out of tickets, and it was a wonderful catered dinner. And, of course, we had Mark Twain, or someone that looked like him, but certainly sounded like him, that was there to greet us all and tell us the very latest of what's happening back then when he was there in Virginia City himself. So it was a great convention. A lot of ideas were exchanged. We learned a lot about the American Radio Relay League's emergency preparedness program at headquarters. The ARES service is going to stay the same, no change, just the umbrella name of public service. And I believe that Michael heard from many folks indicating that think about the folks down at the bottom of the ham radio chain that are right in the public service field that are handling emergency comms. And his comment was, our service to the public includes all amateurs, not just a select few set apart by an acronym. Well, we had to think about that. You can read that in QST Magazine, page 75, and make up your own mind. But I'm delighted to have worked with Michael as well as all of the ham radio operators that made this convention #1 in our books. Back to you, Bob.
All right. That was great. Lots of fun, I'm sure, and I wish I could have been there, but not enough hours and not enough spaces in my curriculum. Well, we're going to take off out to Washington and see what's going on out there. Did you bring your soldering iron with you, George? What do you got going tonight out there?
Well, I didn't bring my soldering iron, but there's plenty of them here. As a matter of fact, most of these techs down here have about 4 different soldering irons on their station. So I feel right at home. And Ray, what's the first thing I said when I touched down here in Washington State?
Well, George said we had to do something for smoke and solder, and I got to tell on you on this one, George. We were in the service department, and all of a sudden he hears something start groaning, and he goes, "Oh man, that's music to my ears."
Yeah, it was a desoldering station, so that felt right at home here. So I wanted to do something, you know, in the service department down there, and fortunately we ran into Kurt, real nice guy. Showed us all about the IC 7000, told us about a few things on the inside of it. So let's take a look at that. So you might wonder, if you send your ICOM radio in for repair, where does it go? Well, it could go to this bench right here, where they've got all the latest test equipment they need to check it out with, microscopes, multiple sizes of soldering iron, desoldering tools, everything you'd need to work on one. But the one important thing they've got is someone who knows how to use it all with these particular radios. So today, I wanted to see what was inside an IC 7000, and without breaking mine open myself, I've got the experts here at ICOM to show us what goes into this rig. So this is a radio with the top cover off.
Yeah, this is the inside of the 7000. Basically what you see here, this metal box here is the DSP and logic unit. That's where the magic happens as far as modulation and demodulation. It's all done in DSP stage. This board over here is your DDS board. That's where all the magic RF is created, generates all the frequencies required. And then underneath the logic board is the main board, and that's where it all comes together. Your IF stage basically runs through here, your first and second IF stages. We turn this over, this is the PA board. It's basically the second half of the radio. We're looking at the HF final amp right there, that pair. And this would be your VHF power output and your UHF power output. But if we were to flip that over, you can see the components here, and basically the RF goes through, and these are your filter sections here for your different HF bands.
And those relays just switch in for whatever combination it needs for that particular band.
That's right. So that's the basic insides of the radio. Not that easy to service, but there's some basic things you can do if you suspect a power problem or something like that. It's easy enough to come in here and just ohm the gates of these finals to ground, and usually if there's a problem they'd be shorted to ground. So it'd be an easy way to diagnose if you just take the cover off and do that alone.
But if you had that problem, would you want to ship it back in here to have them professionally replaced?
Oh, generally yes, yes. If somebody's experienced with soldering and removing FETs, because it does require a lot of solder, a lot of heat, and heat sink material, things need to be clean. And, if somebody's comfortable with that, they've worked on radios and they've done that before, then that's fine. But not a lot of people have actually replaced these kind of finals because it is quite the job. This is what's inside the logic board in DSP. What takes place here, this is basically the logic section here, and this runs the whole radio. It does all the display and everything else, but then over here is the DSP magic. Basically, your third IF goes into that and receive, and whatever mode you're in, it detects it and decodes it and brings out as audio. Basically, your mic signal goes into the DSP, and the IF required comes out of it. So there's no adjustment for deviation. It's just set. It's always right.
It's all math, huh?
Yeah, at that point it's just math, and it's almost magic. You know,
Yeah.
Microphone audio goes in, and if you want AM signal out, that's what you get. Sideband, upper, lower.
And that board fits under this cover?
Yeah, basically it's sandwiched inside there. And the pink material you see is the heat sink material. Transfers the heat from some of the components that are more active to the case, and then you have this part here that makes contact with the top panel, and that also dissipates the heat. So some people might be concerned that the radio is really warm. Well, it's supposed to be. It's dissipating the heat by some of the components inside.
It's acting as the case is actually acting as a heat sink.
Yes, yes. Now the major heat's dissipated through the fan and the air channels, and it blows through the PA section. So even though the radio might feel warm to the touch, it's being cooled internally. And that's all adjusted, or that's all automatically done through thermistors and everything else. The CPU calculates the temperature and sets the fan speed.
Is your specialty the IC 7000s, or do you work on all the different models?
I work on most of the amateur products and some of the others.
To avoid sending a radio back to you, is there anything people should do when they install it?
Well, like most radios, I would say that you're going to want a really clean DC supply, whether it's from a supply or a battery. You want a clean DC. And of course, you want good grounding in all your equipment.
You've got a lot of ferrite beads coming here. You don't want any RF getting back into that meter and throwing your measurements off, do you?
That's true. One of the alignments that we do requires a 3 millivolt audio signal in while measuring a 50-watt RF output.
Quite a differential.
Yeah, and it's just inviting RF. If you don't have a really good coax, some will leak out and make its way back in, and you'll get feedback. And same thing with the microphone input circuit. That's what I have here.
Yeah.
I got beads on there too to keep the RF out of that. So it's a kind of a specialized alignment, basically a software alignment. So it's a little extra care and RF is required.
So any special considerations on antenna installations?
I would say yes, especially since this radio covers such frequency range. The main antenna output for HF is separated from the VHF and UHF output. So you don't want those antennas too close if at all possible, especially if you have an interaction between, let's say you're putting out 100 watts on 6 meters. Well, your 2 meter antenna could be resonant also and get a lot of that energy directed straight back into the front end of that. So if you can, you should isolate your antennas as far as possible.
So when somebody sends in a radio for service, naturally you're going to troubleshoot it and repair it. But is there anything else you do while it's here before it ships back out the door?
Yeah, generally Just my preference on the 7000, I'll put the 7000 through a complete alignment as per the service manual. So it gets the full alignment, and not only does that make sure that it's meeting its specs, but it tests every band. So it's a good overall test too, to make sure you didn't miss something.
So you use, of course, I see scopes, spectrum analyzers, RF generators. You've got pretty much everything you need here to completely check it out.
Generally, the IFR is the heart of our bench.
Yeah.
That's the easiest one to generate and to test receives and stuff like that. But when you need to do a little more extensive troubleshooting is when the other stuff comes in.
Yeah.
But for like general testing and things like that, the IFR is pretty much our primary. These little items here, they look like they're little sponges, and they actually are.
Oh, really?
What they are is it's additional grounding, and it's like a stainless steel mesh, so it does make contact. And they're held on with adhesives, so they contact strategic ports of the radio and make sure they're grounded to the case.
So those need to, for certain, be where they are now. You don't need to move them around and
No.
put the case back on.
Yeah, putting one of these in the wrong area is a very bad thing, because it's just a big section of ground, and it'll make contact with a lot of things. So it's best to leave those where they're at.
Well, we really appreciate Kirk taking the time to talk to us a little bit about what they do in the service department down there. He was really sharp and gave me a lot of good information. And everyone in there was really nice. And, you know, they take care of the radios. And as he mentioned there are a few things you can do yourself, but if you don't know what you're doing, just send the radio back and have it done right. You'll be doing everybody a favor by doing that. You know, last week I asked a question. You know, we showed a block diagram of a mixer, and I asked, was a headphone jack shown there, a balanced or an unbalanced circuit? Well, apparently, Bob, we're going to have to cover balanced and unbalanced again, because a lot of people guessed balanced. But Patrick Prescott, KC1AJT, said the headphone jack is an unbalanced 1/4-inch connector, and it's stereo, of course. He's going to win that external speaker from DX Engineering that I showed you last week. Congratulations, Patrick. That'll be coming your way after I get back to Mississippi. And for next week, we've got a question here. If you were paying attention in that last segment, you'll know the answer to this. Where is the modulation and demodulation performed in the IC7000? If you think you know the answer to that, Ray, you don't count. You could win MFJ's book, Morse Code, Breaking the Barrier, a great book on getting your CW speed up. If you think you know it, well, just send me an email to hamnationcontest@gmail.com, and you could win. And boy, I've had a great week here at ICOM this week. It's not over yet. Ray, what are we doing next?
Well, we got a couple more things to shoot for tomorrow morning, and then around noon we start heading to Seaside, Oregon for the CPAC Ham Fest that Gordon mentioned earlier. Going to attend a few seminars on Friday. They have a nice variation of topics they talk about. Saturday's the show, so maybe you might find your Ham Dynasty group like you did down at the Jackson, Mississippi Ham Fest. But I think you're going to miss Tommy not being your wingman there. And Sunday, work our way back here, and then I think you fly out Monday.
Yeah, I do. And we're going to meet up with Randy K7AGE there. And he will be I guess the virtual Tommy, or we'll kind of tag team it, and we plan on doing a few things together there. So it's going to be great to see him and see a lot of you there at CPAC that I've heard from this week. So, Ray, thanks again for having me here. We've got a lot of great video coming your way in the future. So stay tuned. Bob?
All right. Well, that's just super, and I enjoyed seeing the wonderful bench. My goodness! But see, that's very important when you get into a lot of the current radios. You have to have equipment that costs tens of thousands of dollars, and you can't just poke around on it like we used to do. And you know, this was a great tool in the old days of tubes. And you're going to say, really? You would take an eraser on a pencil and bang that tube to see if it was microphonic, or if it wasn't lit, you might push it over a minute, see if the socket. There's just all kinds of things you could do in the old days. Not anymore. So yeah, it's best to get it back to the originator, and they know what's going on. Well, let's go see what's going on in Newsline. Don, let's let her have it. The news from Newsline.
From Amateur Radio Newsline Report, number 1920, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, June 4th, 2014. Some good news regarding amateur radio satellites. The ITAR restrictions have been relaxed. What's ITAR? Graham Kemp, VK4BB from Australia's WIA News, explains.
It's the International Traffic in Arms Regulations, which inexplicably applies to amateur radio satellites. It threatens USA radio hams with jail terms or six-figure fines if they cooperate with amateurs outside the USA on satellite projects. Among the projects already affected by ITAR has been the New Zealand amateur radio satellite KiwiSat. A 2009 IARU Region 3 report highlights that ITAR made AMSAT North America direct its members to cease cooperation with AMSAT ZL in the development of KiwiSat. Satellite Today reports that after 15 years of restrictions and intense scrutiny, the United States Department of State is reclassifying satellites and several related components so they will no longer be treated as weapons.
ITAR regulations were partially responsible for AMSAT North America's cancellation several years ago of its Eagle HamSat project. Those restrictions made it almost impossible to work with its international partners on that ambitious project. Now for the bad news. The KickSat amateur satellite burned up in the Earth's atmosphere without releasing its payload of Sprite Pico satellites. Here's Newsline's Jim Davis, W2JKD.
Re-entry took place on May the 14th after the tiny CubeSat's orbit decayed to a point where its atmospheric drag led to its fiery demise. As previously reported, KickSat suffered an unexpected computer glitch on April the 30th that caused the Sprite deployment countdown timer to reset. It proved impossible to correct the problem, meaning the timer did not trigger the release of the 100-plus sprites before the satellite burned up in the Earth's atmosphere.
It's not known if another KickSat project will be attempted. Still looking to the sky, Japan has just launched an ambitious new satellite.
Sprout is a 15.5-pound microsatellite launched on May 24th from the Tanegashima Space Center in Japan to a 406-mile high sun-synchronous orbit. This satellite is a project of Nihon University and includes some interesting amateur radio payloads and experiments as well as CW telemetry. The experiment packages contain an FM digipeater, a digitalker, and a message box along with live and preloaded slow-scan TV pictures. The Morse-based telemetry can be found on 437.525 megahertz, while the downlink for the slow-scan TV and digitalker is 437.600 megahertz.
Nihon University enjoyed previous success with its SEEDS 2 HamSat, also known as CO66. And finally, Friday, June 6th marks the 70th anniversary of the Allied D-Day landings in Normandy, France, and amateur radio is celebrating.
To commemorate this event, the United Kingdom's Vintage and Military Amateur Radio Society is organizing a series of full carrier amplitude modulation nets on 80, 60, 40 meters for operators of vintage military wireless gear that would have been in use at that time. Now, these special AM nets will be open to all amateurs, and joining stations are encouraged to undertake a little research beforehand to provide a description of how their equipment type was used in Operation Overlord. More about the sponsorship group is on the web now at vmars.org.uk.
2 stations in France will be operating as well. You'll find full details on schedules and frequencies in the full printed and audio edition of this week's Amateur Radio Newsline report. And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news, brought to you each and every week for over 35 years and counting at www.arnewsline.org. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW73. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. And I bet you didn't know that the National D-Day Museum is here in New Orleans. And if you're ever down here in the Crescent City, it is well worth a trip to see that. Just an amazing place. I work just down the street from it. I walk by it going to lunch sometimes. The National D-Day Museum in New Orleans, worth a trip down here. Let's talk about Dayton Hamvention, though, and specifically all the new products that DX Engineering unveiled. Now, they've all been fully tested and proven. They are superior to the competition. If you couldn't make it to Dayton, we're going to highlight a few of them over the next weeks. And if you want more information, of course, just go to dxengineering.com for all the details. Like, for instance, the new Universal Copper Ground Rod Clamp. It is the perfect mounting platform for your coax, surge, and lightning protectors. Doesn't matter if you've got polyphaser or alpha delta, it will accept up to 6 of the common protector models, such as your polyphasers and your alpha deltas. You just secure the clamp to the copper ground rod using the hardware included, install your protectors, and you are ready to rock and roll. And during the installation, you can weatherproof your ground connections with a conductive joint compound that you can also find at DX Engineering. Will give you the proper connectivity while preventing moisture ingress. There's also a new rotator control line protector from DX Engineering that is an excellent way to ensure that your rotator is guarded against voltage spikes. It's designed specifically for rotators and other control cables. It has 8 individually shunt-protected terminals for the control wires. So when the system receives a voltage spike greater than 82 volts DC in either polarity, it automatically shunts that spike to ground using an MOV for maximum surge protection. It's housed in a weatherproof metal enclosure, has integrated mounting grounding stud. It's easy to attach to a tower leg or a ground rod. Has terminal gaskets to keep the moisture out of it. Make sure your other equipment, including your new tower, is properly grounded to give you maximum protection from voltage spikes. And DX Engineering, of course, carries a wide array of surge protection and grounding components. And a DX Engineering Tech Advisor can help you build a comprehensive grounding system that is just perfect for your application. And if you want to grab any of this gear, you get your order in by 10 p.m. Eastern. If it's in stock, DX Engineering will throw that stuff on a truck. Well, gently place it on a truck. It'll be headed your way tonight. Proven products, expert advice, the fastest shipping in the industry. DX Engineering in Ohio, USA, helping you shrink the globe. Get your catalog or shop online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at dxengineering.com. DX Engineering, thank you so much for your support of Ham Nation and this fine country that we live in. And speaking of great Americans, let's see what's going on with Dale in Kansas. Dale, how are you tonight?
Don, thanks a lot. Enjoyed your DX Engineering commercial. We get their emails about once a week. They're really great, all kinds of good things to look at and dream about getting someday. Well, tonight we've got an inexpensive 10-meter beam, a new club website, and a Nordic Hamfest. Let's jump into our first video from Corey Klumper, N0ECK, as he shows us how to construct a very inexpensive 10-meter beam.
Hi guys, N0ECK here again, and today we're going to build an HF beam for less than $50. So I was at the farm store looking for parts for antennas. You know, the end insulators from electric fence work pretty well. Either way, I found 9-foot fiberglass rods they use for tile markers. Add an SO239, a piece of wire, and some radials, and you've got yourself a vertical that can be up to 9 feet long. Works pretty good for 10 meters. So I've got a 10-meter vertical. I've used it. It works pretty well. But today, we're going to take that concept and turn it into a 10-meter beam. So what you're going to need for the project are 4 of those 9-foot tile markers, one 10-foot stick of 1-inch PVC tube. I prefer the white PVC tube because it is RF transparent. Some method of connecting that to your mast. Also, I'm going to use a rope as a rotor, so I'm going to use this to produce myself a little rotor thrust-bearing type assembly for my portable antenna, some ring terminals, and then some tape and miscellaneous. I'm going to use some 14-gauge wire that I bought a long time ago for antenna projects. It has lasted forever.
I looked online and found many plans for 2-element beams on 10 meters. I found several calculators for direct feed Yagi dimensions, and they all agreed on what's listed here. There were other plans with different spacing, but they all use solid elements and some kind of gamma match at the feed point to make 50 ohms. I started by using my trusty tape measure and cutting the elements to length.
Alright, so I soldered the driven element to a piece of scrap coax that I'm going to use as a balun. Most of the time I don't bother with balun because, well, omnidirectional antennas usually don't need them unless there's, you know, RF interference in the shack. But this time it's probably a good idea. I'm going to tape these up and make sure they're, you know, not shorted.
I wound 10 turns of the coax around the boom to form an ugly balun. This should keep the beam's pattern a little closer to the models. The predicted gain for this beam is somewhere between 3 and 6 dB over a dipole, depending on who you believe. My makeshift thrust bearing slides right into the bell end of a 10-foot stick of Schedule 40 electrical conduit I had left over from trenching in some coax. I tested the antenna at 10 feet this time, but the normal mast I will use is 23 feet of PVC stiffened with 2x2 lumber.
Well, it's a little droopy, but it seems to do the job. The 50 ohm dip is right at 28.000. I did have to cut a couple inches off the driven element. Of course, I left the reflector as it is because a little long isn't going to hurt it. I still have to drill the holes for the reflector, and drill out the center there so that I can have something other than a zip tie holding that. But as far as temporary setup, it seems to work pretty well. Should collapse down to 9 feet to fit in the back of pretty much any pickup and most cars if you flip the back seat down. 7-3, join the resistance.
Well, thanks, Corey. And if you're interested, you can follow Corey at Ham's Resistance on Twitter. Well, our club website of the week tonight is SuffolkCountyRadioClub.net, featuring, of course, the Suffolk County Radio Club there on the east end of Long Island in New York. We'll take a quick look. The site was nominated by Bob Giglio, NB2G, the club's webmaster and secretary. Bob tells us the website has undergone major changes, and he tries to keep things up to date on a daily basis. Check it out, the SuffolkCountyRadioClub.net, and nominate your favorite club website for the Ham Nation website of the week and an email to HamNationVideos at twit.tv. Well, let's move now to our last video for the evening. Comes to us from Zap Anderson. He's a regular Ham Nation viewer, and he's an aspiring ham in Sweden. He's been studying for his license, hopes to take the test real soon. The video features the Hamfest in Eskilstuna in April. It happens to be the largest Hamfest in the Nordic countries.
So we're standing here outside the Munkell Arena, and we're going to go inside and look at the event. Enjoy. So you're the cashier in the club, so you're stealing everybody's money right here?
I don't steal it. I just borrow it. They get it back when there is a dragning on the lottery. They will get it back probably.
So what's the price?
Could be a lot of nice things, radio,
stuff,
computers, stuff, other things also.
Oh, then maybe I need to buy a ticket.
Yeah, you have to.
Okay, I'll do that.
That's good.
This is the ham person. See them in their natural habitat, hamming around the way that only ham people do. So we're standing here at the Eskilstuna Hamfest, and what's your name?
My name is Tor Bergström, and my ham call is Sugar Mike Zero Charlie, Victoria, India.
Awesome. So you're selling stuff here. What is this stuff?
This stuff is a military radio made for the British Army during the late 1980 and in the Falkland War. But I think a lot of those stations was sunk there, and some of the rest was out on the surplus market in England. But today you can find them on eBay.
And of course you have one here.
And therefore I have one here. And it was in between when the military changed over to ALE system and the frequency hopping system. This was out on the surplus market, and this station is very popular even in the United States and also in Europe. And the other one is a German station made by AEG Telefunken, and this equipment is now out on the European market from the surplus market, and it's a very, very nice station. They are quite modern to work amateur radio with, on amateur bands, and also for field day use and flora, fauna, natural park areas, which is a competition for flora, fauna all over Europe, but it's very popular here in Sweden with those stations. You go out in the forest and find a natural area which is a flora, fauna, and then that area has a certain number, and then you exchange reports with others, and then you work amateur radio with those areas.
Well, Zap's son Oscar did the editing, and you can find a link to the full 10-minute video at HamNationVideos.info. Zap says to make sure you turn on the subtitles on YouTube before watching. That wraps up the video segment tonight. We're always looking for your videos and shack photos to localize the video segment for you. So please send them to HamNationVideos at twit.tv. Do make a visit to HamNationVideos.info if you will. You'll find a link to all of the videos featured on the video segments here and some guidelines that you should look at before you shoot. We can still use some more nominations also for the club website of the week. Just send them in to the same address. Well, that's it for tonight. Have a great week, and we're going to head out now to Canyon City, Colorado, and check on tonight's chat room chatter with Amanda. Amanda, how's it going out there?
Very good, Dale. Thanks. Thank you for asking. And let me make sure. Am I backwards again, you guys? I am, aren't I? Okay.
Yep.
Always backwards.
We love it.
Do. Okay. Oh, thank you.
All right.
That helps a lot.
How did you do that?
I did not do that. Didn't do that. Okay.
That was cool.
But I'm glad that they can do that because I'm always fine. Okay. Hey, you guys. Great episode tonight. Oh, boy, Bob, wonderful on 6 meters. By the way, just since we're talking to Bob, KG4 GSX Chris, he wanted to let you know he's going to be in Tennessee shooting video and hopes to see you there. So, hope you guys catch up.
Who is that? Who was that?
KG4 GSX. His name is Chris. He's going to be in Tennessee while you're there.
Oh, all right. I will look forward to that.
Video. That's great. And since, Bob, you said, hey, let us know where your hamfests are, we did have someone let us know. KA2OFM, Bill, says, Hall of Science in New York City has their hamfest this Sunday, 9 a.m. Location is the same as the 1964 World's Fair. So that looks like it's going to be pretty cool. And let's see, Gordo, when you were talking, you mentioned let's make sure we use those higher bands so that the FCC does not try to take them away from us. Can you go ahead and go a little bit deeper into what bands you're exactly talking about?
You bet. And first of all, a correction on the ATV repeaters, Portalinks, Portalynx. Portalinks is the ATV repeater group out of Las Vegas. Well, as what Michael Corey mentioned, the bands from 900 megahertz and higher, many we share, and many are slowly being encroached by commercial services where they've petitioned the FCC that they want some bandwidth and that the hams are maybe not occupying all of the band. So Michael Corey really points out it's important that we try and use UHF and microwave frequencies to their fullest, including with digital as well as what Portalinks has as analog ATV and other digital modes. The old use it or lose it. Back to you, Amanda.
Thank you, Gordo, and I absolutely agree. We've got a lot of 70-centimeter repeaters around here, all in microwave shots. So, and they're also looking at a lot of narrow banding just to open up some of that space around here because so much of it is used. But you guys, get on your local repeaters, definitely. Look for 900 megahertz. Look for, what else is there? 220 find some radios, some old ones, get on there, see what else is out there for you to utilize. Yeah, I think you'll have a good time actually doing it. Okay. I think we also have a question for George. Actually, we had a couple of questions for George. First, George, in K8J, Brad, he would love to know if ICOM let you use a soldering iron in their facilities, and did you get to fix anything?
George has left the building.
Bad. Okay, I'm sorry.
So-
George, we'll ask him that next week. Because I think
That'll be a good one.
Definitely. And okay, since George isn't here, let's see, what else do I have? A lot of talk about field day. Everybody's getting really excited. So Gordo, what are you doing for field day?
Field day, I'm going to be operating with an emergency. Oh, I'm sorry, with a public service group here in Costa Mesa, and we've got a Innov antenna, 6 meters, and that's going to be my specialty band. Look for me at 50.125, and it's a big 6-element Innov antenna. And we've got it tuned up. We're going to have it on the back of a tall flagpole on my vintage station wagon, and we hope to get a signal out all over the country if the band will cooperate like it did for Bob a couple weeks ago. Back to you, Amanda.
Absolutely. I'm going to be listening for you. We're going to be working 6. If it's open, we're going to be doing it as well. I'll be here with my local club for field day. We're at the Holy Cross Abbey again, and look forward to it. Not the mosquitoes, mind you, but everything else. So, and Bob, I think you already, you're going to be in Nashville, and is that correct?
I am going to be in Nashville. Yep. I drive down Sunday, teach these classes on Monday, and I'll be there Tuesday and maybe Wednesday. I'm not sure where I'm going to be field day, but I will let you know.
That's wonderful. And I can't wait to do our field day episode where we I'll get up in our get outs and have the bug spray, everything else, the hot dogs next to us while we're trying to operate. So look forward to that. And that's about all the questions I have. So I'll send it back to you, Bob.
Well, you look really good tonight. Jeff must have fixed some lighting, and everything looks great. We're glad to have you, and we're very happy he turned you around.
Yes, I am
That's
so
pretty
thrilled
cool.
about being turned around. What I did, first of all, I'm extremely sunburned.
Talk backwards, Amanda. Oh, now you're good.
Okay, that's backwards. I got extremely sunburned, so I started messing with my camera's light settings, and I found out this whole correct the light exposure kind of thing, and I decided, I'll just play with that a little bit, and I think that it actually has worked out quite well.
Yeah, that looks great. Well, thanks for being there. And I won't see you all next week because I'll be on the road, but I know that everyone else will be here, and George will be back safely, I think. So you guys will all have a good time. Maybe I'll check in. We'll see how things are going. It just depends on the signal. We'll see what happens. Gordo, thanks a lot. It was great information. And Dale, you're something. Man, oh, man, the videos are just great. Don, I love your news line, of course. And chat room, what can we say about the chat room? It's wonderful to have all this participation here on the 150th show. Think about that. We've come a long way from the night that Joe Walsh and I started this thing off, not knowing that we were going to have number 2 or 3, and here we are to 150. So it's really great. Gordo, what do you think about 150? Sometimes we wondered if we would have made 7, right?
Yep, and I'm just delighted. And we will keep on for another 150. And again, my thanks to the Sierra Nevada Amateur Radio Society. They even had a ladies' luncheon that was outstanding.
Wow.
So this is neat. Get kids, ladies, everybody involved in ham radio. Back to you, Bob, and I'll meet you on 7278.
Yep, 7278, 14268. Where are you going to be, Dale? I guess you'll be up there with the big guns on 20. Is that right, Dale? Uh-oh, no audio.
Dale, you're muted.
He's saying, I'll meet you on 7278 as well. And have a nice day.
Oh, goodness. The volume was down, Dale. But good to see you, man. Really good tonight. And Amanda, take care. And to the chat room, thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. Look again next week. Pass us on to all your friends. And just put Ham Nation into Google, and you'll be able to see all of the past 150 shows after tonight. So we'll see you later on in one of the nets for sure. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Brian. Thanks to Leo Laporte for the bandwidth and all of the neat things that happened in Petaluma. This is K9EID in the Ozarks, 7-3, and bye-bye for now.
Celebratory night here, 150 episodes of Ham Nation. Woohoo! All right, 7-3 from the West Coast. Yeah, you're right, California.